Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Blue Knight 7 with a new episode of the Blue Knight Cast, episode 37. And I took a couple of days off, but wanted to come back and talk about my honest reaction to that Pokemon Presents earlier today. And, yeah. Now, for those who don't know already, I'm not really a Pokemon fan or a Pokemon gamer. I just never really was. I remember when I was a kid, well, I say kid, I guess an early teenager, when the first Pokemon Red and Blue came to the U.S., I was reading about it, and it's like on one hand, I was honestly interested. On the other hand, I didn't own a Game Boy. Also, on the other hand, I thought I was just one of these people who thought the idea of having to buy two games to collect them all and get the whole experience was just kind of a ripoff. And I would, I'd already been introduced to other JRPGs by that time. Super Mario RPG, Secret of Mana, let's say. And to me, it was sort of a what? And so the idea always intrigued me, and I'm not saying I didn't completely just not follow Pokemon as it went, but I never could really get myself to invest in it. And then when Red, Blue, Yellow came to the 3DS Virtual Console, because by then I actually had one, I did download Yellow to give it a try, and I just never went too far into it. Not that I'm saying, to me it felt like a better game than what I had pictured, but at the same time I felt like I was just spending a lot of time grinding in very early game, and there just wasn't a lot there to hold me at it personally. And then a little bit after that, I believe, in time, so Sword and Shield came out. And I did get Shield. I kind of asked for it as a Christmas gift, and I got it. And I thought, well, let's see if this holds me. And I'll be honest, people, I kind of fell asleep a lot as I was trying to play it. Maybe it was just the timing, things I was going through at the time, but it would be like late at night when I would get to play it, and I just kind of it just didn't keep me awake like some games would. And I also found myself wanting to grind a lot, like the very first time you go into the wild area. And I never really could get myself past like a lot of the early plot stuff, let's say. And I kind of gave up on it and traded the game. The game stopped, to be honest. So that's where I was with Pokemon up to now. The Fire Red and Leaf Green versions that were already announced a few days ago come out today. I know I said earlier I'm willing to try them just because, it's the original games with a little more fidelity, GBA fidelity, let's say. Part of me wants to give them one more go. I still might, but like I said, it wasn't a big priority. Maybe if it ever goes on sale or something. But with all that said, I did take the time to watch the presents earlier today because I was just curious as to whether Gen 10 was coming at the end of this year and what it looked like, maybe, if they would show it. And they did. And I want to talk mostly about my impressions of that game. But before we do, I did watch the rest of the presents leading up to it, and a lot of it really, again, just wasn't for me. Pokemon Champions, Pokemon Cafe, Pokemon Sleep, the trading card game, Pokemon Go, glad to see people who care about those particular entries or things get more content with those things. Gale of Darkness coming to GameCube NSO. Always glad to see the GameCube NSO get more games. I've been told that's a very unusual game with kind of a single player focus, like a unique single player mode. Might be worth checking out. I don't know. I already have NSO, so I might try that just to do it. But I've been told it's not a normal Pokemon game. Like, don't expect a normal experience with that game. And so, there was a lot of that, a lot of stuff that I'm just like, whatever. Pokopia, which apparently is how they want it to be pronounced, Pokopia. Again, it's coming out in March, I believe. It sounds like it's going to be a big deal, like they expect it to be a big deal, because gosh knows they've been marketing it this year. And it does seem to be an interesting blend of Minecraft and Animal Crossing, let's say. That's kind of how it strikes me. But for casual gamers, for people who are really into, say, Animal Crossing, Minecraft, this might strike a bone. This might strike a chord with you. So, if it does, I'm glad you're getting it. For me, it's just, could we have got something other than that and Super Mario Brothers Wonder in March? But it seems to be they want it to be the tentpole release for the spring beside Mario Tennis Fever. That's kind of how I take it. If Mario Tennis Fever was the late winter release, this is the early spring release, and I feel like those two were supposed to be tentpoles when you look at their marketing, Nintendo's marketing. With a little bit of hindsight starting to form up. That's what it feels like to me, and maybe that's why they weren't pressed to put out a general direct, because between Mario Tennis Fever, Pokopia, new content to Animal Crossing, Bell Park, update patch for Xenoblade X, that would be like a sucky direct, but you might say together it's enough to have a first half lineup, maybe. It just kind of feels like this. I know I'm going on a tangent, but it just kind of feels like this year is going to be a lot like the second year of the Switch 1, where the first half was lackluster, but it picked up on the back half, with capping off with Smash Brothers Ultimate of all games. So that's kind of how this year's forming up to me. Like, not really for everybody first half with the games I just mentioned, probably followed closely by the Yoshi game to go along with the Mario movie, which is tentpole number 3 for 2026. Let's be honest here. And on the back half, we know about Splatoon Raiders, we know about Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. We're still waiting for release dates on those, and there's probably going to be something bigger than them to anchor the end of the year holiday. I'm kind of betting on the new 3D Mario with something Zelda related for its anniversary this year, like maybe older game remade for Switch 2. Could be the Triforce Heroes, could be the Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD finally, could just get Twilight Princess on GameCube. I know I'm going way off on a tangent, but I'll explain why I did here in a minute. But I do think that might be the general theme for this year in hindsight. Okay, back to Pokemon. So after seeing all this, which again, it wasn't really for me, we get to the end, sort of a one more thing. And it is a trailer for the new Gen 10 Pokemon Winds, Pokemon Waves. And it seemed, what we saw seems kind of consistent with what leakers had been reporting. I think even the Winds and Waves was leaked, and the starters were leaked, images of them. So all that was pretty consistent, actually. But the game itself, let me say, I was actually impressed. The trailer they showed, there was some CGI, heavy CGI at the front, which I didn't really buy into much, and I thought, no, this isn't it. But then they cut to what looked like actual gameplay or in-game visuals, and I was impressed. It depicted sort of a coastal area. I've seen some comment that it looks like Australia coastal or South Pacific coastal, maybe so. But I saw coastal waters, I saw forest, I saw sort of a magma environment, like a intervolcanic underground environment. And they took you under the water too. I think this is maybe a 3D realization of diving in prior 2D games. So, or older generations where you didn't actually see underwater, but you had a dive command. So maybe you can actually dive for real in this game. That seemed to be what they were doing, because they showed an underwater environment too that was full of Pokemon. And it all just looked very interesting to me. The visuals, I'm not saying they're the best thing Nintendo has ever put out, but it's definitely the best thing Game Freak producing Pokemon has ever put out. The environments reminded me a lot of, say, Breath of the Wild, like not quite Breath of the Wild, but hitting in the same area as Breath of the Wild. Sort of a cell shaded, cartoonish appearance, but you could still see depth in the world. Bright colors, textures in general looked way better than, say, what we've seen with Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. I didn't see the Nintendo 64 trees, for example. It just looked like a big improvement over the last two generations. So, great. I guess there were a lot of new Pokemon showed. I couldn't really tell you what's new, what wasn't. They did highlight the 3 starters, which again were like what was leaked. I thought all 3 designs looked pretty good myself. I realized a lot of people are really drawn to the fire type starter. I think her name was Pombon, like a fiery Pomeranian dog. It made me laugh, but I think a lot of people are really drawn to that one the most. There was another called, I think, Brout. Big eyebrows, sort of a plant type looked like. And there was Gekwa, a water type gecko Pokemon. And I'm just looking at them like, okay, yeah, they're the typical starters. They look cute. What did they evolve to? Part of me thinks the Pomeranian Pombon's going to have a hilarious evolutions. Brout 2. Gekwa, I don't know. It might be the most straightforward one. We'll just have to see. But that is something with Pokemon. It's always intrigued me, just how they come up with their drawing, character designs, evolutions, how they can kind of keep elements but make them more, should I say, badass, as they go. I just never could get into the core mechanics. So I'm kind of looking at this as a game that I want to follow closely. I'm not going to say I'm committing to buying Winds or Waves just yet. But I'm committed enough that I'm going to pay attention and maybe read reviews as we get closer to its release and see if it's really something I want to try or not. Because I don't know. I just never been able. It's like I want to get interested, but I never could get interested in Pokemon as a franchise. But maybe this is a game that does that for me. We'll see. I'm going to pay attention and follow it and see if it's something I want to really invest in or not. If I did, I'm only buying one game just to see if I like it. I'm definitely not going to buy both at the get-go. But we'll see. I guess you can tell I'm a little on the fence, but if I was leaning off of getting off the fence altogether or against it, I'm just kind of staying on the fence now. The one thing I'll add about Fire Red and Leaf Green, I've seen some reviews. I get the criticism that they're ROMs, but they did confirm today that you'll be able to interface with the Pokemon home service. For those that don't know, it's kind of like a central internet cloud drive in a way, where you can deposit Pokemon you've captured in previous games and then kind of bring them forward to future games or more current games. And apparently I could play, let's say, Leaf Green, play through that game, try to catch them all, deposit them in Pokemon Home, and then go on to, let's say, Pokemon Waves, and have those ready to go, at least whatever Pokemon Waves will honor. Because I don't think they always have every Pokemon in every new game now, so I wonder just how that works. I'm sure somebody can comment and tell me how what I said was completely wrong. If I did, please do. But I'm kind of intrigued. Like, do I invest in Fire Red or Leaf Green again and try to see if I can get interested again with older eyes, and maybe see if I can carry something over to Waves when it comes out? I want to think about it. And the last thing I was going to say, which is kind of partially why I went on my tangent earlier, they announced it for 2027. Pokemon Gen 10 is not coming out this year. There was some belief that they would more than likely force it out even if it wasn't ready at the end of this year, because they've already took a year longer than they normally do to crank out a Pokemon game. Mainline Pokemon game. We got Legends ZA last year, if you'll remember. Most people thought Gen 10 was going to be the holiday game this year, which made you wonder, with Grand Theft Auto 6 really coming out at the end of the year, and it's supposed to be on schedule for the end of the year, and maybe a 3D Mario, were they just going to have a super loaded end of the year for game releases this year, with everybody wanting to avoid Grand Theft Auto? Well, apparently Pokemon will be avoiding it. And I think reception to this, from what I could read, has been good, because people would like to see them keep polishing, because they've already got it shinier than it's ever been. So apparently this has been a very positive Pokemon Presents for people. Glad to see that. And with that, I'm going to conclude this episode of the Blue Knight Cast. Please like, subscribe, share. I hope you liked this episode. I'm trying to keep going. I took a break for a couple days, but I'm trying to keep going with this. I have a couple of things I really want to do in the next week or two, episodes to produce, or maybe things that aren't exactly episodes, but things to put on the channel. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, hype it, whatever you want to do. Leave a comment if you want to. Just give me your reaction to this. Has this really been as good as I'm taking it, or Do you have a different opinion? With that, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing it with me. Have a good day.